where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's video and audio episode is with a personal trainer and nutritionist who strives to help people achieve great transformations without feeling like they are dieting or having to fit their life around their training schedule through her online coaching program. And aside from fitness coaching, she also offers posing coaching globally. So we're going to be getting some of her insights on that today. She became an IFBB pro in 2019 at the Olympia Amateur in the UK. And since then, she has competed every year with 12 pro shows under her belt, including the Arnold UK. Her journey started in 2015. She tried out a lot of different federations, never won a show up until 2019. And after that, she went on to compete 4 weeks later when she started in 2019, entering this league. And then she won a pro card and the overall champion title, which is freaking awesome. And she actually found out she had epilepsy on her 21st birthday when she was out clubbing. And since then, she's transformed her lifestyle and overcome, I believe, if I heard it correctly, over or maybe up to 4 deaths, and has since been managing it, spreading awareness, and showing others you can do anything you want to do. We have a lot to learn from this woman. I'm really excited. So welcome to the show, JADE KELSIE WOLFENDEN. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I hope you are too.
Yes, I am. I'm so happy you're here. And I know I jumped around in that introduction. There's just so much to share about you and know about you. So before we get into all that amazingness, I want to know if there's anything you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
I'm very spiritual, so I carry 2 crystals with me, rose quartz crystal and a tiger's eye, and I have them in both hands and just say a prayer before I go on stage, and then I just pop them over to the side to make sure that I can see them when I'm on stage.
Oh, wow. So you actually put them in a place you can see them. Have you ever looked at them when you're on stage?
Sometimes when I'm just on the side and I can see in my corner of my eye. Obviously, when some stages you can't obviously see backstage, but some stages you can. So I can't always see them every single stage. But like the one I did in Italy this year, you walked on the side and I could still see the back of the stage. So I just put them somewhere where I know that they are, so I can have clear view of them if I just feel a bit nervous. Because for me, I'm not a confident person. I'm not sort of person that would go on stage naturally. It's taken me a long time to have the confidence to get on stage. So sometimes I still get the little flutters in your stomach when you feel, oh, what am I doing?
I feel like that happens right before I get on stage. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's really about to happen. And then when I'm on stage, it's like that element kicks in and you're just in it, you're flowing, and then you get off and you're like, what the heck just happened?
It's like you change into another person. It's really weird.
Yeah, especially if you aren't the type of person to normally put yourself out there like that. It's a very empowering experience.
Yeah, you feel proud when you come off stage. And I know in amateur shows you don't get as long on stage as you do on pro shows. So when I turned pro and started going on the pro shows, I like, get me back on the stage. I'll go again.
That's so cool. It's like actually really interesting because as an IFBB pro, you do have technically like unlimited time. And obviously you are really only wanting to showcase your strengths anyways. But it's still nice because as an amateur, I do think especially that time you're done, prejudging is over, you have no more stage time. All you're thinking about is getting back on that stage. And sometimes at finals as an amateur, you don't get to do your full routine again. No. So it's like, you almost wish that in that prejudging moment time could slow down.
Yeah, it's a little bit different as well in the UK. So the 2 broad shows that are always run immaculately, if you get your time on stage as your mandatories and your comparisons, whatever, but you only get like 10 seconds or something to do your eye walk. Well, the posing routine, it's not even an eye walk anymore. And then that's it. And then you're straight on. We don't even do prejudging or finals over here.
Oh, so it's just one straight show and then results.
Yeah.
So that's how it was here in 2020. And I loved it. I wish that all shows were that way, in all honesty. Like, as an athlete, that experience, you've done shows in America too, though. So you have experienced that. What do you find to be better, or what do you prefer?
I prefer to run it straight through.
Yeah.
Because then you're done then.
You're done. You're in that element.
Because you're already hyped up anyway. You've already done your routine. You've been on stage. You've kind of dragged yourself up there to do it. And then I just feel like, oh, I'm having to wait now for what sometimes bikinis last, isn't it? So it's 2 hours or whatever waiting to then get back on stage again, which is nice to say that you've got to get back on stage again. But I did like it when it would just run straight through. Yeah,
I know. I feel the same way. It's that, like, there's a benefit to each, but I do think if every show is like that experience for me, I think it would. The day is very long. This is something, you know what, this, we were just talking before we hit record, something people don't think about before they start competing is what is actually required. And as a person who's never competed before, you might be thinking, like, what's a show day actually like? And honestly, they can be really, really long.
I dread show day. I love prep. I love dieting, training, every single side of it. I love getting the tan on and have the night before where you just get that giddy feeling. And then show day comes and I'm happy for it, but it's so long. Bikinis always last, like I've said before. And with what we normally get ready early in the morning. Well, I normally get ready about 10 o'clock, so I'm ready because you get stressed out, don't you?
Yes.
And then you're waiting for, like, I think one show I went on stage till like 9 o'clock at night. And it's so long. And you're waiting all day, and then you've got to try and organise your food on that time, try and keep full, but keep look right at the same time, try and practice your posing, but not be on your feet. It's just, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, and then you're timing your hydration too, because, like, you don't want to be chugging necessarily before stage, because you gotta pee, but you also, like, don't want to do it too slowly, where then by the time you're on stage, you're not filled out. So it's an experience, and I think we might as well talk about this. Just new competitors or people who haven't competed. There's a lot to know, and I wanted to hear your opinion as a coach. What are some of the things that you think differ between lifestyle phase to then competition lifestyle?
I think from a life, so I've done both, and I've got lifestyle clients and online client, and prep clients, sorry. And lifestyle, you can be a little bit slack off with your food sometimes. If you did want to go out with your friends for a meal, you can kind of get away with it. But in prep, there's no chance that you can come off your diet like 1 single ounce at all. You've got to make sure everything is organised daily to make sure everything is done. The amount of food you've got to prep if you're working throughout the day, and then you've got to make sure you practice your posing, getting your training sessions in, but still making sure you get on your steps in, your cardio, making sure that you're actually resting as well, because that makes a massive difference. If you're not resting and you're on your feet all day, you're just going to hold on to water and you're going to stress your body out, which you can end up putting weight on, which is probably normally water that you're putting on. But it's so, I would never tell someone not to compete, because it's the best thing that I've ever done in my life. But it's very restrictive, and you've got to have a certain mindset in order to be able to compete. You can't just, and I see it a lot lately, you can't just compete for the sake of competing because everyone else is competing. You need to compete because you actually want to compete. Now, I started off competing not because I wanted to compete, because my dad said that I wouldn't be able to do it. So I wanted to prove him wrong. So my mum used to compete, and when she was back in the day, she used to do figure when figure was bikini now. Yes. And I saw the photos when I was younger, and I said, I want to do that. And we ran a dinner table, because my family each ran a dinner table together. And my dad went, you won't ever do that, Jade. I was like, all right, I'll prove you wrong. a year later, I was on a show on the stage.
What made him think you couldn't do it?
So as a kid, I liked my food. I'm not a foodie, but I like my sweets and I used to like my food. And I hated the gym. Like, you would not get me in a gym at all.
Like PE class
No,
was torture for you.
yeah, I was the person that would forge for notes from your mum to try and get yourself out of PE. I had no interest in sport whatsoever. But I think it was because it was team sports at school, and it wasn't you. I'm very good at concentrating on what I need to do. That sounds selfish, but if it's something that I enjoy and something that I know that I can do it, I don't want anybody else to do it for me. I want to be able to do it myself. And I think bodybuilding it's very lonely game. Your friends don't understand, depending if you haven't got bodybuilding friends. All my friends are bodybuilders. You'll learn a lot. You need to make sure that you can pass your time to whenever times that you're hungry, sit and watch TV or doing some work, that you can just get it out of your head and not go to the cupboard and get the biscuits or the chocolate or whatever you've got. My easiest thing for that is literally just don't buy it in. So as soon as I start prep, everything gets thrown out. The whole cupboards get thrown out. So there's literally nothing in the house that is not on prep in my house at all. But throughout time competing, you get used to it. Like, my partner can sit and eat a pizza in front of me and it won't bother me at all. But it's because I want to do bodybuilding. It's something that I want to do, and I've always wanted to do it. Not just because I got told I couldn't do it, but I found the love for it because you're looking after your health and looking after yourself. And that's what I'm saying. Just don't do bodybuilding for the sake of it, because it's hard. You've got to sacrifice a lot. You've got to sacrifice friends, sacrifice family sometimes, events. There's a lot that you need to stop, and your environment that you're in for yourself around prep is massive. If you're around people that drinking and doing whatever, you're not going to be able to stick to it. There's no way, because you're going to be influenced by it. So you've got to make sure that everyone around you is what you need.
There's so many great points to what you said. So backtracking, you were a foodie, you didn't love physical exertion or team sports, but you knew that if you set your mind to something, you wanted it to be within your hands, your control, to be successful. You committed to try competing one day after being told you probably couldn't be successful. You are clearly successful in it now, which is awesome. And you recognize that if you start competing, or you do compete just for the sake of it, it's likely not going to be something you sustain because of how demanding it is. So when someone's considering competing, consider how demanding those requirements feel. From a mental health professional standpoint, I would even encourage someone to consider, okay, these are the things that feel most hard. Why do they feel hard? And what needs to be in place to make it easier? To your point, something that was challenging was having a circle of people, or a social circle that it wasn't supportive. Now you have one that is, and that gets it. And then also, what was your environment like? If your environment is a cupboard full of snacks that are very easy to grab, munch on, and way overeat on your macros, or even your meal plan, may not be conducive to your goals. That's not to say you can never have them, but just consider your environment, set yourself up for success. And then lastly, over time, those demands tend to get easier to endure because you've now created an association that goes beyond your physique. You see that it's your health, it's your life, it's your lifestyle, it's beneficial. And being around that stuff no longer matters as much because you see a purpose that's grander than just, no, I can't. It becomes like, no, I'm choosing not to. So the confidence in that lifestyle has endured beyond like what the initial challenge was.
Yeah. And what's to say, food is always going to be there. It's never going to disappear. So when you come off prep, if you want to have some biscuits or some sweets or whatever, it's always going to be there. They're not going to disappear. So the sacrifice that you make now, or for example, if you're in prep, it's going to be much greater achievement for when you step on stage and you know that you've done literally everything possible that you could do to be the best shape that you're in. You don't want to step on stage and think, well, I shouldn't have had that biscuit, or I shouldn't have had some alcohol. You don't want to, if you're on stage thinking like that, then you haven't given it 100%. And personally, I might be a bit harshy. You shouldn't probably be on that stage, because you need to get your act together and actually think, is it something that I want to do? Because you can't do that when if you want to make bodybuilding a career, or if you're just wanting to do it for the sake of doing it, then do it. But if you're wanting to make it a career, you have to sacrifice things that you love in order to be able to be better, because it's not going to work if you have gone there being that warmer t-shirt. You just don't get in shape. There's no chance that you're going to be able to get to where you want to be.
And I think that's the clear distinction, is if this is something you're turning into a career, or you want to go very far in and be successful, you have to recognize there's going to be new challenges that come with that span beyond a more simple lifestyle change. This is something that's going to require a level of mental energy and commitment every single day, regardless of your season. And as you painted the picture earlier, in a lifestyle phase or lifestyle part of your journey, if you're not competing, or maybe you're thinking about it, there's a little bit more relaxedness to it. You can have the biscuit if you want it. You can have a break from training if your body's really feeling like it's needing it. In a competition prep, that's not the case. You're usually pushing through, unless you talk to your coach and they agree that, yeah, Jade never complains about her body aching, because she knows what it takes, that if she's complaining, she probably needs it. But otherwise, like, as an athlete going far, you're probably not saying much about it.
You just see at some points you just end up just taking the heat of what you've got. Yes, literally. I'm aching, but I've still got to keep going.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is, like, this doesn't have to be, I don't think either of us are saying it's this huge pendulum swing from you're living a life to now you're a competitor. It's more so that consider what it is you want to get out of competing, and then let that guide the actions and the level of commitment you put into it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you can't go out and still enjoy your life. On prep, I don't know whether you have this over where you are, but like Go Away, where you have adventures in the trees.
I don't know.
Do you have stuff like that? So we have like massive trees over here, and they do like a tree adventure. So you get harnessed on and you go through the trees on like adventures.
Yeah, like almost like zip lining.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
I love zip lining.
I do stuff like that, or I go bowling, or you can still go to the arcades. We've got loads of arcades near me. So you can still live your life and still spend time with your family. It doesn't have to involve alcohol and food. I can't, with my epilepsy anyway, I can't drink a lot at all. Probably one or two drinks anyway. So for me, this has to be in my life. Otherwise, like you've said from the intro, I completely rejected everything before and it killed me. So I have to make this my life. I've got no other choice in it, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
That's actually really interesting, because, well, there's two things I want to dive into. So one, I know there's been times you've posted that in your improvement season, there is a bit more of that flexibility, and that's good, but you're always mindful of your health. So talk to us about the requirements for your nutrition and your exercise with epilepsy, and how that's actually changed the way that you see fitness as a whole, or even life perspective.
So when I got diagnosed with epilepsy, I was a normal 21-year-old who liked the gym, liked to eat. I didn't really eat very much. I was really bad with my eating at one stage, because I just think everyone with interest in bodybuilding have got a control over the food. So I like to have the control over my food. I trained, but I trained in the wrong way, like loads of cardio stuff. Did weights, but didn't really train properly. And this, when I got into bodybuilding, everything got into slot, and I started doing in off seasons. I've realised that yes, I can still. I've been off season for about 4 weeks now, so I've still been out for food a couple of times. I've been out with friends. We've been out clubbing. But I just know that even if I could drink, there's no reason for me to drink, because I still want to be able to go out and train the next day, or still feel fresh the next day to be able to get on with my life. Because even though you are in an improvement season, whatever you do in this improvement season sets you up for prep. If you're not sticking to a plan, like 365 days of the year, I am on plan. There's no days off. There's off-plan meals, yes, but there's no days off. I'm always sticking to a plan. And the only difference between improvement season and prep is that there's more food and there's a little bit more freedom. Whereas you can go out, like I said, you can go out for meals and you just train harder because you've got more energy. But you need to train hard in order to grow, for me, to grow the glutes that I need for next year. Because if I don't do what needs to be done now, then there's no point in stepping on stage next year, because I won't have been made the improvements that I need to make, and I won't be getting the top threes or winning the shows that I want to win. So prep is just a very small section of the whole picture in a bodybuilding world. Your improvement season is where everything changes, and like I said, train harder, you grow more. Yes, you've got flexibility to be able to do a little bit more, but you still need to have the mindset of thinking, right, I've still got stage next year, I still need to do X, Y, and Z in order to get to where I need to be.
So true. Your improvement season really does have such an impact. And I think every year that you compete, you gain even more of that perspective. Like, I know as an athlete myself, it's like every year, every improvement season has taught me something different.
Yeah.
And I've been able to grow from it and see, like, when I really committed to an improvement season, that I was like, not just going through the motions with training, but like feeling every movement and fueling my body and staying on point. I remember like that change was huge on stage from the next year.
And I think one of the reasons why I didn't have to do cardio this year was because I was so strict with my off season last year. Yes, I was bigger. I think I dropped about 30 pounds from start of prep to end of prep. But then near the end of a prep, I ended up putting more on to be fuller, obviously. But I lost 30 pounds and I wasn't overweight with my off season. I didn't put loads of fluff on. Still had a flat stomach. It's just that my legs and my ass grew bigger. So you need to kind of get into a mindset as well in an off season that you're going to get bigger, and that is hard. That is really hard. I really struggle with that. We've been so strict when I was younger. When every time I go into an off season, my partner hates me when I do it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting bigger. I'm getting big. Yeah, but you look better. You look fuller. I'm like, that's just another way of calling someone fat. He's like, shut up. I went, yeah, I know. But you need to just get used to the fact that in prep, you're not healthy. You're not, your body's not functioning. You lose your time of a month. Your skin don't get very great. I know mine don't knit back end. And then when you go into an off-proven season, your body needs to get back healthy. You need to get your hormones back in check. You need to get your time of a month back. You need to be able to function actually mentally, because sometimes back end you don't even. I think I've gone through some days where I've not even raised a thought in my head because all I'm thinking about is what I need to do next. You don't realize, do you?
Yeah, that's such a great point. Like prep can be very tunnel vision to the point where you don't see other areas of your life that need attention. And that's something I think is actually lacking in the industry, that we need more of that, because I think it makes people better athletes. And then when it comes to improvement season, yeah, your body's getting bigger, but isn't that what you want? You know, like it's hard to remember that, but we have to remind ourselves of that. And there's a difference between fat gain that comes from habits you're unhappy with or behaviors you're unhappy with, and fat gain that comes from executing on a process that feels really good and is the right process. And I tend to notice that the people who I support who struggle the most with body image are generally unhappy with their habits too, or they have such a history of being positively reinforced for or rewarded for looking leaner, And because month after month after month, you're just looking to be smaller, that it takes some time for your mind to catch up to seeing your body get bigger.
And I think the best way to look at your body in that sense is to actually put clothes on. Because I think when you look in the mirror in a posing bikini, when you've looked in the mirror in a posing bikini for so many months, you are going to be different. There's no reason in it. You are. Yeah. But when you put clothes on, you look completely different. You don't look as big as you feel. You don't look like what you think you look like in your head when you're standing in front of a mirror in a posing bikini. Because you're so used to looking at social media is horrible for it, where people are putting pictures of a posing, but you never really see people putting posts on in their off season. And that is one thing that I'm trying to do this year. So every Thursday I post my check-in photos, and I don't care how it goes. Every single Thursday I will make sure I post my check-in photos, because you need to see that, yeah, it is good, and having the support from people when you are getting lean and the feedback that you're getting, but you still look like a normal person. It's just that when you're lean, people go, whoa, because they don't see stuff like that all the time. But when you are in off season, you're still a normal person. You're probably not any bigger than anybody else. So you still need to be able to see that. And I think posting about it, or even just taking the photos and actually really sitting down and just looking at them and thinking, actually, because sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I do a check-in photo and think, actually, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong at all. What am I worrying about? And I think you need to really sit yourself down if you are struggling with, because it took me years to be able to do that, because I used to delete every single photo. No. But you've got to actually think, no, look, my legs are growing, my glutes are growing, the waist is still small. There's nothing wrong with that. So, and that's why I'm posting it every Thursday, because I'm like, I'm going to make sure that happens this year.
Love that. That's something that I've been committed to for a while now too, is always share the improvement season. Even when I got up to like close to 160 pounds, which I don't necessarily recommend, and that was from a lot of different things in my life, I still shared it because I think it's important for people to see, exactly as you said, the body evolves and changes with you and with your life, with your choices, with health, all these things. If we ignore it or we pretend like that's not true, we just judge and criticize so much more. And then, like you said, you only get used to seeing your body and other people's bodies in a certain shape, a certain conditioning, that then when yours isn't looking like that, whether you're comparing it to your last self or to somebody else, you now think that you look weird in the bikini, or you look fat, but in reality, like when you expose yourself to it over and over and over again, and you normalize it in a sense, you can see like, wow, even one of my friends who's not a competitor, I was like, sometimes what I find that's difficult is when you're in your improvement season, you think you look more like a normal person. She was like, I don't think anyone who actually understands what it takes to build a body would look at most of you competitors and think you look normal. Yeah, she's like, your muscle is so much more intense than most people walking around, even with improvement season fat gain, like just the muscle alone. And I was like, that's a good perspective from someone who doesn't compete, because us competitors are like, but I'm in this improvement season because I need to grow more. But it's like most people are like, you are pretty stacked already.
Yeah. I had someone at the gym who don't think he competes or anything, and he's seen me from prep and seen me now, and he says, "Are you getting like bigger, like with the shoulders?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm trying to grow." He went, "You do not need to grow."
Right. He's probably older too.
Yeah. Like, thank you for that, but I do need to grow, but thank you, I appreciate it.
I love that. It's so true. And we are hard on ourselves because we know and we're working towards a criteria, but it's good to have perspective, because social media, we exist in this bubble of competitors. And I've said it on this podcast many times, but I'll say it again. Like, go ask your neighbor or a random person if they know who Miss Bikini Olympia is.
Yeah.
They probably don't, but that would be crazy.
None of my friends do either.
Yeah.
Well, I say to my friends, I want to do Olympia. What? I'm like, oh God.
They're like the Olympics. You're like,
Yeah, the Olympics. No, no, not the Olympics.
I just said pretty much. Except every year.
Kind of like the Olympics, but for bodybuilding.
Yeah.
That's what I know to say.
Exactly. It's true. So it's good for perspective. I love that that's something that you're doing. But I want to know from your perspective as a competitor as well as a coach, being entrenched in this industry as well and really focusing on the lifestyle. I mean, you've competed every single year. So have you ever experienced burnout or had to manage like maybe drops in desire or commitment?
Yeah, so not this year gone, but the year before, I had a really bad time with my epilepsy. I had, when COVID was around over here, I had the vaccination. It didn't really agree with my body. Ended up sending me having 14 seizures back to back, and then my heart ended up stopping, and I died. And I ended up in resus and in an induced coma for a couple of weeks. And
Weeks?
yeah, I was in prep at that time. And I came out, I think it was like 1.5 weeks, I think it was, came out, and then got straight back onto prep as soon as I came out. And my coach was like, "You cannot do this." I went, "I am stepping on that stage if it kills me. This is not stopping me from doing this." But then my body wasn't playing ball. Nothing was playing ball at all. And I just remember sitting in my darkness in my bedroom, just crying because I just couldn't understand. Well, I can understand now. I was just putting my body through so much because at the time we've talked about it before I think we recorded. My body wasn't playing ball because I had underactive thyroid, and I didn't know this. So I was literally trying everything under eat, like I think I'm having like 800 calories, probably wasn't as little as that, but it felt like it. I don't think it were more than 1,000 calories. And then I think we're doing like 2 hours of cardio a day, 20,000 steps a day. And it was going up rather than going down. And I just couldn't understand it. I tried resting, that didn't help. So ended up thinking, right, I'm going to just get my bloods done because the hormones play a massive part in a prep. And then I just said, just test everything, just want everything, a full bloods done, just get it done. And then they said, well, your thyroid's under, but it's not massively under, but it is under. So I got prescribed Pyroxine, started taking that. I've been absolutely fine ever since, never had to do any cardio.
That's
So
amazing.
my body plays ball. It just didn't want to play ball because I didn't know about it. But I think because my body's been through so much with my epilepsy, there's a lot of underlying health issues. So I've got a bad heart. My heart, when I have a seizure, my heart stops. So I used to have a reveal device in my chest that recorded my heart rate and then sent it to a hospital if my heart ever stopped. Because when I was asleep, sometimes my heart would stop for no reason, just would stop. And then I'd come out, but as I was coming out, I'd have a seizure because it was kind of like restarting my heart was the seizure type thing.
Yeah.
And until that, my seizures hadn't been under control until like properly this year.
Wow.
So I've been carrying on competing ever since and just trying to struggle competing and seizuring at the same time. But there's been this year's been the easiest prep that I've ever done in my entire life. But before those preps, getting my pro card, doing the different shows that I've done has been the hardest I've wanted to quit so many times just because I just think, well, my body just don't want me to do it. They just don't want me to carry on dieting down and doing things like that because I did get told when I did get diagnosed that I wouldn't be able to get my body fat down over a certain percentage. I wouldn't be able to train. So I couldn't get my heart rate above 130 beats per minute. So I wouldn't be able to do weight training because weight training, obviously, you get your heart rate above 130 when you weight train, especially doing legs. And it was really, really hard. And I've just got to a point where I thought, I just don't know if I want to put my body through this anymore. And then it started playing ball end of last year, and I thought, you know what, I'll just give it another go.
What was it about bodybuilding that made you feel it was worth it, even when you were fighting your body?
I think it was the only thing that I could control at the time. So I could control how I trained. I could control because I couldn't control my body. My body wasn't letting me control it. I couldn't because with epilepsy, you don't know when you're going to have a seizure. Medication helps, but it doesn't stop seizures, and there's no cure. There's not talked about enough. Not a lot of people know how to deal with seizures. And I've had seizures in the street where people just walked over me because sometimes you look drunk.
Mm.
I've had seizures in middle of town. People just walked over me. I've had seizures on buses. They've just walked over me and not done anything about it. And I couldn't control when I was going to have one or where I was going to have one. I lost my driver's license as well. And then I
Wow.
just thought, I just need to control something. I could control everything around bodybuilding. I could control when I ate, when I trained, posing, timings. I could control everything. I just couldn't control my body.
That is really intense. Not only did bodybuilding give you something you could control, but it probably restored a lot of purpose in your body. I imagine you started to see what your body was capable of, even despite
Yeah,
what you were
I
told.
mean, I think there was one time where I had a really bad seizure and the ambulance guy ended up saving my life with a defib. And I woke up, he said, I'd never forget what he said because he came into a resus and he said that his sister's got epilepsy. And when I'd had a seizure, I've got medals on the wall here and
Yeah.
I'd had a seizure in this room. And he, but obviously defibbed me in this room and sorted me out and got me to hospital. And he'd seen the pro card and my swords and stuff that I've got on the walls. And he said, don't ever stop what you're doing because my sister won't leave the house because she's got
Mm.
epilepsy. And then I just thought, you know what, I need to do it not for myself, but for everyone else that are scared for doing it. And bodybuilding gives me so much joy and so much love. Like the girls backstage are lovely. The feeling that you get when you're on that stage, when you are on that stage and you know that you've done literally everything you possibly can to be the best that you can possibly be, and you're on that stage owning it, it's just, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It's just the best feeling in the world. Like the happiness that it brings and the confidence. And because I got bullied a lot at school, so I never really had any confidence. And the confidence that it brings you and the happiness that you get from seeing what your body starts at and what it finishes at, and then the changes that it does throughout peak week and stuff with the carbs that are implemented and stuff throughout the week, and the water that's implemented throughout the week. It's just incredible how the body works. And I just fell in love with how you can change so much and how it makes you feel. Because, yeah, there is down days and, yeah, you feel a bit tired and a bit shit. But if you if you don't want to do it, then you wouldn't do it. Like if anything's worth doing, it's worth doing properly and it's worth doing well. And you need to love something that you do because if you don't, there's the hard times are just going to ruin you. They really are.
So true. My grandpa used to always say a job worth doing is worth doing right. And so you just saying that reminded me of him and reminded me of that lesson, which is really powerful. And it speaks to the commitment as well to be your best. And I really love that story you shared about the man who told you that about his sister and told you to keep going. Because I imagine that there's been times where you have a seizure and you're like, I want to isolate, I want to hide, I don't want to leave because
It's
I mean, being,
embarrassing as well.
oh, go ahead.
I said it's embarrassing having a seizure as well. It's not a pretty thing to see a seizure. It's very embarrassing. I've had one at the gym a couple of times, and you just feel like the world. You just want the floor to eat you. It's horrible, but obviously people don't view that of you when you go in. But all you can think about is I've just been in the gym and everyone's seen me have a seizure, and he's so embarrassed and you just want the floor to eat you up. But when there's people in the gym, especially in the gym, where they actually understand how much it means to you, it's really nice going in and going, you can do this, go on, keep going, smash it. And it's really nice having that community, because people who go into the gym, if you've got that community around you, like the Ultraflex gyms around us, everyone's a family and every single person knows everyone, and they're there to spot you if you need to spot in. They'll help you lift a weight if you're absolutely knackered in the middle of a prep, and they help you out. And it's just nice to have that community. And I think bodybuilding is that. They do have that. Everyone tries, I know from the people I've met anyway, that everyone tries to help each other out if they can.
Absolutely. It is such a beautiful thing. They see what you're capable of and they see what you want to achieve, and they want to see you go for it despite any sort of setbacks or difficulties. And when you said that it's embarrassing, and you said that earlier that people would walk over you on the street or on the bus, I'm like thinking, okay, well, maybe we should raise some awareness on what someone should do. So can you maybe share some of that knowledge and awareness with us?
So there's a couple of types of seizures. I have, you'll probably know it as tonic-clonic over in the US. So they're typical seizures that you'd see someone like either stiffening up or the shaking, or not generally the stiffening up and the shaking, and they're like convulsing, so they're moving up and down. The only thing that you can do is just if they wake up, don't go anywhere near them, because sometimes they can be really confused and not know where they are. I've accidentally punched someone in the face when I've woke up because I've not known who they are. So just don't go anywhere near them. Just make sure that if they are convulsing, that you're putting something underneath the head, so they're not going to hit the head on the floor and give themselves more damage. Because if you're convulsing, you're so stiff and you're giving your head some right force on the floor if you're convulsing. And if it lasts over 5 minutes, call 999, because they're not going to come out of it.
Okay.
That's the main ones that you need to watch out for. I mean, there's absent seizures, which I have, which is like you're talking to someone, then you just like daze off into like thin air, and you struggle to get your words out. You're completely silent, and you can't really do much about them. You just got to kind of put the hand on the shoulder and see if they're all right, and they should come out of it. Again, if they don't, after 5 minutes, then ring 999, because that's not going to come out of it. But it's just making sure that when they do come around, they realise where they are and they're okay. Because I've had them before where I've been at middle of the gym and then thought, how the hell have I got here? And then had to realise where I am, and then done it, gone again. But the tonic-clonic ones they're the ones where you completely, I can't even explain. You're so tired, like the back end of prep. You know, when you're back end of prep and you literally can't even lift your arm up because you're that tired.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like when you come out of a seizure.
Mm-hmm.
But you're like that for about 48 hours.
Wow.
It's horrible. Migraines that you get afterwards as well is not very nice.
When you're having a seizure, do you know you're having one, or is it not until after?
So I've had 2 different types of seizures. Some people know that they're having them, and some people don't. I've had only one where I've known that I was having one, and that was probably the worst one I've ever had for me, because I was hitting my head on a radiator, and I knew I was hitting my head on a radiator, but I physically couldn't stop myself from hitting my head on the radiator, and I couldn't do anything about it, and I knew it was hurting me, but I couldn't stop myself from doing it. And then the other ones, I say it's more awful for someone to watch it than for me to actually have it, because yes, I feel a bit rubbish when I come out of it, but it's not a nice thing to see someone have a seizure. I always feel bad on my partners or for someone who's had to witness it, because I've had to, before I get diagnosed, you have to like record them to show your specialist to make them realise whether it is seizures or not. You have to go through a long process. It took me like 2 years to get diagnosed. because we don't just do it straight away, and they record your seizures to see if are epileptic seizures or non-epileptic seizures. So I've watched one before, and I couldn't watch it after about a minute because it was just horrible. Not nice at all.
And that's such a vulnerable state for you physically and mentally, and then coming out of that, like, again, physically and mentally.
I think the hardest thing is waking up and even not knowing who, like, for example, I've not known who my partner is, and I've been with him like nearly 8 years. So waking up and not knowing who anybody is, or waking up scared or confused. And I think after a while, yeah, you come around from it and you can kind of understand, but it's embarrassing. I think it's more embarrassing than anything else, just because you've got no control of what your body wants to do with itself. I think that's the worst thing about having epilepsy, that you don't know when you're going to have it. And when you do have one, you've got no control about what happens to your body.
Which explains what you said earlier about bodybuilding giving you control. And
Yeah.
I imagine going through that process of diagnosis and finding out that you did have epilepsy. It was genetic, and it expressed itself through different triggers of yours, including drinking. I imagine that comes with a lot of grief, maybe, for the life that you thought you might have or you did have.
I mean, my triggers are heat, stress, and tiredness. And obviously I can't drink too much, but that's not all epilepsy is triggered by alcohol. But you always have at least a couple of your own triggers. Everyone's triggers are different. Some's are flashing lights. So everyone thinks that flashing lights is epilepsy. I don't. My triggers are from flashing lights. Mine's not photosensitive. So you'd think stress, tiredness, and heat wouldn't be very good when you're training and you're dieting and you're wanting to prep. But being able to think, I do not feel stressed when I prep. I don't know what it is. It's you do get the shit, am I going to be ready on time? Or am I doing the right thing kind of stresses, but you don't get, like, I don't think life stresses you out as much. I don't know how to explain it. And yeah, you get tired, but I just have to make sure that I look after myself just that little bit extra. So I used to have a job doing personal training. I don't do that as much anymore. I do a couple of clients and that's it, because I know that when it comes to prep, I'm going to be tired. So I'm going to have a nap in the middle of the day or at the end of the day or 3 times a day if I need to have a nap. I still have to have a nap. I sound like a right old person. I still have to have a nap when in the improvement season, because my meds take it out of me. So you have to just learn how and it's the same with bodybuilding, you have to just learn how your body adapts to different things. Because I'm sure that halfway through a bodybuilding prep, people feel like they need a nap, because I need about 5.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's probably a lot of things you have to consider, maybe at a higher level or in more frequencies, like a nap, or just consider in general that other people who don't have epilepsy are not having to think about.
Yeah, I've got to think about recovery a lot more than I mean, I only train 3 days a week. I can't train anymore. Prep 2, I don't train any more than 3 days a week. At the minute, I'm only training legs. I don't train upper body. Not because of epilepsy, just because my body can't get any bigger. Upper body cannot get any bigger. But so I train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and have the weekend off. And that works really well for me. It gives me rest in between. Yes, it is leg day every single other day, and I get the rest at the weekend to really reset and then restart again. So I've just got to be a lot more mindful about my body. But I think everyone needs to be like that. I don't think it's just because I've got epilepsy I need to be a bit more mindful. I think there's a lot of my clients and a lot of people who I talk to need to be a little bit more mindful about, and being a bit selfish as well. Yes, I love helping people and I love trying to do everything I can for someone. But at the end of the day, if you're not looking after yourself, you can't give 100%. to someone else. So you need to make sure that even if you are just with an improvement season, or even if you're in a prep, you're still looking after yourself and making sure that you are looking after you. Because you can't do a prep or an improvement season if you can't physically do it yourself anyway.
So true. If you delay the needs that you have for so long, it'll eventually pile up and hit you, and then you likely will cause greater issues to those around you than if you were to just set boundaries and time for yourself and making that time. Even like I have a client who recently we were talking about how she literally looked in the mirror. She's like, I'm so unkept. Like she stopped taking care of her, like literally taking care of her. And so we set aside, like this week has been like a reset mode. She's been really taking care of herself and it feels good. And it's like sometimes we need that reminder that if we don't take care of ourselves, we're really not showing up well. And even if, let's say, you have more time to give to other people, you're not present in that time as much because you're thinking about, I still got to do this. I still got to do that. It like steals the joy from being there for people.
I think the main thing that you need to think about at first and foremost, which has just taken me a very long time to do, is think about yourself first and then make sure that everyone else around you is sorted. For me, I have to do that just with my epilepsy to make sure that I'm staying alive, for one.
Yeah.
And I'm making sure that I can get my health where it needs to be before I look after everybody else. But that took a long time for me to realise that. And I would say it's only been this year that I've done that. And I've been bodybuilding for 11 years and epilepsy, for 8. So it's been a long time.
Some of the best lessons take a while to learn.
I think bodybuilding does help you learn about yourself a lot more, though.
So true. Because you're immersed, like, let's be real, you're really immersed in yourself. You're immersed in what you're feeding yourself, how you're moving your body, how do you feel? You're having to track so many variables that, like, I think that your self-awareness increases to a level that maybe speeds up some of the processing of these lessons.
I think if I ever did stop bodybuilding, I would still stick to a plan, still train, still look after my body, because not just because of being for the sake of it, just because you need to keep yourself healthy and keep everything ticking order and working.
Literally, like, regardless, that's so true. And I think we forget in competing sometimes that this is like a lifestyle that can serve us for a long time because we get so tunnel vision on it, which is, beneficial in many ways, but also like thinking, I like to remind myself, okay, step back. If I wasn't doing this, would I still be doing this? Right. And usually the answer is, yeah, absolutely. There's things that wouldn't be the case. Like I wouldn't be as fixated on making sure my shoulders and glutes are like where there's like things like that. Training might look different, but in reality, the lifestyle is so ingrained in us. And like we talked about in the beginning, it serves us on a different level outside of physique. And as you said, a lot of it's keeping you alive. And this is something I really wanted to ask you about. If you're willing to share this side, coming back to life, being brought back to life, what was that like for you? Like, what was that emotional, or maybe did you have any breakthroughs from when that happened or new perspectives on life from that?
So there's one time where when I got defibbed, the time that guy said that to me, and I saw like it sounds really cliche, but I saw like a really white light, and then I remember hearing, it's not your time, go back.
Wow.
So then I woke up in the hospital, and then that guy said to me about don't ever stop what you're doing, and I just remember I'm getting them now. Just remember getting goosebumps and just thinking, gosh, it's not my time. It's not my time. I need to just make sure that I put everything. And that was like the sort of, because before then that was the 4th time that I died.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 times before that, I was like, yeah, it's all right, carry on. The minute it happened again, it's all right, it's only twice, it's fine. And I actually don't know what my mind was going through on those times, because when I speak to people and I've died, I'm like, you've died? I'm like, yeah, I've died. How? And I think, oh, it's not normal. It's not normal. You die. So I think like the third time, I thought, right, I probably need to sort myself out a little bit and get myself in order. But you feel like utter death when you come back round. And the only time that I felt even half human was the time that that guy spoke to me, because I just came over and just thought, I need to sort my life out, because I was still bodybuilding, but I hadn't really taken it seriously then. I was training, but kind of didn't have the coach that I've got now. And I was kind of not really doing an off season, just doing a bit of a 12-week prep when I needed to do a show and stuff like that. And I was still going out drinking and with my friends and stuff like that. But I realised everyone, I just cut away from everyone that I didn't need in my life, and started to realise, look, Jade, the next time, it will like a switch has been turned on. Like, next time, Jade, that's not going to happen. You are going to die. So you need to sort your life out. And I just kind of thought, right, I heard that as I was coming through. And then I heard that guy when I woke up saying, don't ever stop what you're doing. And I thought, this is a sign. I need to just get my life back in together and sort everything out. And then I'd started, I think that was the time when I started online coaching. I started doing that because that was a passion that I've always wanted to do. Because I loved PT, but I couldn't help as many people as I wanted to help. And some of the PT clients that I had was using me for like a more of a, I don't even know what you call it, social thing, rather therapy, yeah,
friends.
social therapy friend, rather than actually, like, you come to a PT session. So have you done anything this week? Oh no.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I was wasting my time. So when I was doing PT clients that I have now, actually train when I'm not there, and the clients that I've got are amazing and they actually do what I'm asking them to do, and I can help them in life that I've gone through, because I've gone through a lot in the short space of time of being 28. Oh God, I'm 29 now. 29. And I've been through a lot in that short space of time, to be able to help a lot of my clients in a way that I probably wouldn't have been able to do that if all these things hadn't happened to me.
So true. I love that perspective. Like, you realize your time's not done here and you want to make more of it. Like, you want to make the most of the time you have, and you identified where it felt like it wasn't very fulfilling and how you could still serve the purpose and mission that you felt you had, but in a way that was bigger and make even more of an impact. And part of what you're doing as well is not just the training and the nutrition, but also posing. And I imagine this type of perspective and like you said earlier, the confidence that bodybuilding has given you, and how you even still face those challenges. So I wanted to ask you, what are some universal cues that competitors can use on stage to support their posing and really bringing out their best?
If you are doing a routine, like a posing routine on your own, the one thing that I would say is count in your head. Because if you are doing to a music, because you don't get your choice of music in bikini, you just get to go on. I see so many girls where they look absolutely amazing, but they're going that fast that they're not showing off the assets as much. So I always count. So I always hold your mandatories for about 3 seconds, then transition into 2 or 1, and then hold your mandatories again for 3 seconds. And if you know you're posing off by heart, you shouldn't have to think, right, I need to be there and whatever. You can focus on 1, 2, 3, change, 1, 2, change, 1, 2, 3. And I just think that's one thing that a lot of people don't do. And smiling on stage.
Yes.
Please smile on stage and actually look like that you want to be there. Because as soon as you walk on that stage, as much as you might not want be that confident person, because I tell this to people when I first have clients, they're judging you as soon as you get on. So as soon as if you are standing up tall with your shoulders back, holding your poses how you need to hold, smiling as you walk in, even if you can't walk that great, if you're still smiling as you walk in and hitting that pose straight away, the judge are going to see you, you're going to shine straight away. Don't be nervous when, I know that's easier said than done, but just think that there's nobody else in the room and you're just going out and doing it in front of either someone that you love or doing it on your own if you haven't got that. Because if you're not confident on stage, you're just going to, there's so many girls now, you're just going to go into the background and you're not going to shine bright, because there's a lot of people that look amazing, but they're just so scared or nervous, it probably is a word, that they're not showing what they can actually do.
So true. I love those tips because they're easily implementable regardless of what phase you're at in your journey. And if you go to a show, like the shows I've been to, there have been girls who walk out and their posing's not as maybe great as the person who came out before them, but the difference was they were smiling and the person before them wasn't. And it makes a big difference. And you can tell when someone is like forcing facial expressions versus naturally like smiling, embracing who they are, letting that shine. And I really have never seen a competitor go wrong with smiling the whole time.
I mean, posing is a massive thing in bodybuilding. If you cannot pose, it is place depending. You probably are going to end up losing some placings because you can't pose properly. So even if you're thinking about competing or stepping on stage, you need to get into your posing. Because like I said, if you can count on stage to make sure that you're hitting poses for a long enough time, the judges have then got time to look at every single aspect of what you're showcasing. But if you are trying to think of, my foot needs to be there, my arm needs to be there, you're not going to be able to feel comfortable on stage. You're not going to be able to do those two things that I've just said. So you need to make sure that if you think, even if it's the popping into your head, just go and pose, because it'll help even if you're doing photos, if you're doing check-in photos. It'll help in confidence. It'll help with everything. Because I've done girls in person, I've done girls online, and the difference in the confidence after a couple of sessions is nicer for me to see than them actually hitting the poses. Yes, I want them to hit the poses and be able to get it, but the confidence that I see in them and the change is just incredible. So that you can change your body so much if you get your poses right.
So true. Like it really makes a big difference on your physique. And I think sometimes this is painted what you just said really clearly. I imagine when I am learning something new with my posing or changing something, I'm recording it and gosh, I look less steady, less confident. But when I have practiced it so many times, it's second nature. I look natural. So that's like a good reason to practice, because even if you don't land it perfectly, at least you'll have the confidence in what you're doing where you're no longer thinking about that cue so intensely, like you said, because you've practiced it so much.
Yeah, the judges can tell straight away who's practiced the posing and who's not. Straight away. As soon as you walk on stage, they'll know straight away whether you have or not. I remember one, I can't remember what show it was now. I think it was the Arnolds, and I think it was, I can't remember what judge it was. And he came into the back of the Arnolds and said, I'm going to work you hard. I think it was Jack, I've forgotten his last name. I'm going to make sure that I work you a lot hard so I'll know whether you've practiced posed or not. And that's what he said when he came backstage. I was like, shit. Okay,
Yeah,
time's
it's
on.
true. You even have like posing conditioning. Like you can tell who's practice holding their poses versus
Yes.
who's not, because Tyler Mannion over here in America has talked about the same thing. Sandy's talked about the same thing, because sometimes like the differences between physiques are so like it's very, everyone looks so incredible, but they start working them and they're like, actually now I see a weakness here. This girl's glutes are falling because now she's walking to the back, she's not keeping her hips up, that kind of stuff happens. So it's important to pose for conditioning like that, when, okay, if the judges did work us, because we want to expect we're going to go out and battle with people, because that means that everyone's given their all and it's a tough competition. That's very gratifying. So imagine if that is the competition you're going into and you were to be put to work, could you uphold? Yes.
A lot of people can't hold the core tight when you're hitting the posing. Doing stomach vacuum. I know it sounds stupid, and people talk about stomach vacuuming and holding your core in tight. It makes a difference. If you can, I'm not blessed with hips, so naturally I'm very straight up and straight down. So in order to create shape for me, I have to make sure that I'm sat into my glute and I am conditioning my core. Because if I cannot hold my core in, my waist looks very thick. It's not the smallest of waists. So in order to be able to make it look the best it can look, I need to make sure that I can stomach vacuum, hold in and breathe and pose at the same time. And I think a lot of people forget that, yeah, you can get your pose in and you've touched on it really well, but you still need to be able to hold it and do, there's very small tweaks that you can make. There's not just holding your pose in, and there's not just posing. There's a lot of different little things as well, like making sure your hair's not on your shoulders, because it clashes, hides your shoulders, and then make sure that you can lift your chest up tall, because not a lot of girls then twist round to the front if they're not lifting the chest up. They're not holding the core in tight, so the stomach's protruding out and it's making the waist look thicker. Some girls sit into the hips too much, and then it makes the proportions not right from shoulders to glute. So there's loads of things that you need to make sure that you can get right on your posing.
Yeah, I love that. That was a lot of great just key points right there for people to be considering and looking at. So you really can't just do a prep and not practice posing and think that the best physique is gonna get you a win, because if you can't present that physique, they won't see it.
Especially nowadays, because there's so many girls doing it now, and there's so many girls that are so good as well.
Exactly.
That it's not just about your physique anymore. Yes, you need to have that physique there, but I've seen some girls win who I've seen better physiques and they compose better, and that's why they're winning. And I don't disagree, because if they compose and show their shape better off than someone else, then why shouldn't they?
That's why sometimes you'll be backstage and you'll be like, oh, that person looks incredible. But then you're like, they didn't win. But you watched their posing and you're like, oh my gosh, they looked better backstage, just relaxed and chilling. But when they hit their poses, something changed. So those are really important things to consider.
Yeah, and going to a posing coach that doesn't just do the same poses for every single person the same. Because there's for example, me, I have no hips, so I have to change my posing different to a lot of other people. I wouldn't pose someone who had hips the same way that I pose, because it won't match them. Same with, if someone's bigger up top than they are at the bottom, they need to make sure that they can make the bottom half look bigger or the top half look smaller, depending on, you need to be symmetrical. So you need to do your research into posing coaches as well, because there's a lot of people that are just doing posing coaching for the sake of it and actually not looking at what your body type is. Because I get girls messaging me about inquiries for posing, and we go, what category do you think I could do? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't seen what you look like. Oh, well, so said I could look. Well, I've never seen what you look like, so I can't tell you until you do a session, because I don't know what you look like.
And there's some competitors who genuinely like just
do a show.
Yeah, literally. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe you look like your figure because of that. But in reality, if you pose, you can look bikini. Or maybe there's someone who's doing, I don't know, bikini now, but they can go and crush it in wellness too, because they know how to change their body and their posing, and it can make a difference. So it does matter. And like you said, you have particular proportions on your body that make you have to pose differently. And you also said you're only training legs right now. So, and you also said that that's because you can't grow your upper body anymore. what are you personally focused on? Like, what are you trying to accomplish in this? I mean, I already know because I've read all your posts on it, but like, what do you want to accomplish in this sport, and what are you currently doing to get there?
So obviously this year that I did the shows, I didn't specifically get any cues from judges saying that I needed to be any bigger. But then I was looking at all the top four mainly, and all of them had they had hips, they had shape, they had hourglass figures, but big glutes, but not muscly glutes, but big full glutes, which is what they want now in bikini. And I was looking at myself, and I'm naturally not built with glutes at all, born with a pancake ass. So I've
Wow,
had
you've
to,
grown your glutes a lot
yeah,
then. Because
it's
your
taken
glutes
a
are like,
lot.
yes.
So I haven't naturally got a big bum. So I've had to, I train like a wellness girl. So I literally do, all I train is glutes. I don't train legs, I don't train arms, don't train shoulders, nothing. Literally, is 3 days a week of glutes, and that's it. And my aim, hopefully next year, it'll be now, is to qualify for Olympia. I want to be able to get there, and I won't stop bodybuilding until I get to Olympia. Um, I just want to experience it. I don't think I'm ever going to be a Miss Olympia champion or anything like that, but I'd love to try and get into a top 10 in the Olympia. I'd just love to experience it. And I've put so much hard work into it in the past couple of years and changed as a person for better as well. I want to be able to, not that I haven't got anything to prove to anyone, but I want to prove to myself that I can win a show.
Mm.
Because I've done it for so long now. I want to win, and I'm always so close, but yet so far away.
Yeah. Well, and you won, like you were doing other federations before you even entered this one and earned your pro card. You had won the overall, and then you went to the Olympia amateur and you won the overall there, correct? And that's how you got your pro card. So you didn't really start winning, you could say, until you entered this federation. So
Yeah,
what
my
was it?
figure. Yeah, so like for PCA and I think it's UK BFF, it's not around here anymore. I think it's the IFBB Elite from where you are. That's what UK BFF was over here. Um, my shape didn't fit the front pose. So where the X frame of the front pose where you're standing face front.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've got no hips, so I didn't look like I had an X frame. I was too broad up top because I've got broader shoulders than I have a lower half. And it just didn't fit. And then two bros, I'd only just really started. I'd done a couple of shows in the previous years. And my coach Cuba, is a bodybuilding IFP pre-pro, said just try loads of different federations this year and see which fit for you, which I think is a great thing that you should do before you think about a show. Just try loads of different ones and see where you fit. And then it just clicked for posing. I felt a lot more feminine in the posing. I felt a lot more confident in the posing. You're not as front on, you're more side on, aren't you? The people were a lot nicer, so the girls backstage, and everything just clicked. And then I thought, I need to be doing this. Like I'd done bodybuilding from 2019 previous, and I was getting to a point where I'm not getting anywhere, and I don't know whether I can be bothered doing it anymore. It wasn't a passion, but as soon as I got into that federation, I was like, why haven't I done this like years ago? What is wrong with me? And
Yeah.
then I won. I did that because you had to do a regional before you did the pro qualifier. So I did the regional and won at the regional, and then did the pro qualifier. I think it was a week afterwards or 2 weeks afterwards, and then won my class, and then won the overall pro card as well. And I remember getting my pro card, and I had to look down at my number to make sure it was me.
Because you're like, I heard 2 and 3. So maybe it's not. Where did that doubt come from? What made you think maybe it's not me?
Um, because my height class, I think I was in E or F. So I'm quite 5'6", so I'm taller, in the taller end of the category. We got moved around a lot. I never moved from the centre, but the people around got moved a lot, and I wasn't 100% on my bodybuilding as much as I am now.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't know couldn't tell whether I was on the centre. I couldn't tell whether I was on the second. So when I won my height class and then he went into the overall, I thought, I'm not going to win in front of all these girls, because obviously, all the winners from all the height categories go into the overall. And I was looking at all the winners from the different categories thinking, there's no way I'm going to win, but I'm just going to enjoy it, do what I can do, just get on stage and do my thing. And then I did my thing, and then I just couldn't believe it. I just was so shocked. I just remember I don't think I could talk for about 3 hours because it was just so shell shocked. And it was just lovely. My partner ran behind stage, and best day of my life so far, I would say.
That video of you and your partner was so cute too. Him celebrating with you backstage. You could tell he's been invested in your journey.
Yeah, well, he did try bodybuilding, but he couldn't diet, so I let him off.
You're like, I'll do it for us both.
I'll do it. He does rugby instead now. He's cooking that up.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm just so happy for you that you found the place where you feel you belong, and then you've made so much success out of it too, like from a life perspective, impact perspective, and then there's so much more left that you want to accomplish and achieve, and you're working really, really hard to do that. So let's go back really quickly to the glutes, because there's going to be people listening who are like, I also wasn't born without glutes, so how has she grown them like this? So what are your training techniques or tips that you would recommend to someone who genetically maybe doesn't have glutes but wants to grow them?
Don't be afraid of doing different exercises for glutes. They're a very, very big muscle, and they can take a lot as well. So, like I said, I train them every other day, so they can take a hell of a lot of intense work and glutes, and they can take a lot of different rep ranges. Don't be scared to go heavy on glutes. Don't be scared to go really, really, not really, really light, but lighter to get the higher rep ranges. So the 12 to 15, the 15 to 20s, 20 to 25 to really burn them out. Make sure your form is correct, because if you are not getting the right form and technique, no matter how much you do a hip thrust or an RDL, if you're not thinking about switching on your glutes or focusing on that specific area, you're actually not going to target them whatsoever. And I think there's 2 things that people do wrong probably is, one, the form's not right to start with, or they're not warming the glutes up to switch them on to make them activate. And you're not killing them off. I've got 6 exercises that I do every other day, just glutes. If obviously not everyone just needs to grow glutes, they need to do legs at the same time. But if you have got a day that just focuses on glutes, make sure that your RDLs are glute focused. Make sure your hip squats. So I do focus hip squats that are just focused on glutes. I don't use my quads. I don't use my hamstrings, and it's hard technique. There's a lot of things on my Instagram actually that I've talked about how to train glutes on certain techniques that I use, because it is very hard to think that not to bring in your quads or to bring in your hamstrings. You've got to really, it takes time. So go light first with your weight and build it up slowly. Don't think, right, I can normally do, I don't know, 170 kilos on a hip thrust. Are you actually doing it right? Is your form and is your weight too much and you're not getting all the way up the top? Are you actually squeezing your glutes at the same time as your feet in the right position? There's a lot of different things, and not every single position is right for one person. So sometimes your feet need to be more forward, sometimes you need to be further out, or your toes turned out. You need to try different techniques to see what works for your body as well.
When I earned my bachelor's degree in psychology and went on to earn my clinical mental health counseling degree and even become a national certified counselor, I knew I wanted to bridge the gap between competitors and mental health professionals. Too often, athletes are told that they can't compete and have a healthy relationship with food or their body. And I absolutely disagree with that. I have helped thousands of women globally to build more than just a body by combining psychology, personal development, mindfulness, and my signature peace through growth process. If you are struggling with the post-show blues, or you're struggling with adherence to your prep, or any aspect of your relationship with food, your body image, or overall commitment to your goals, I have tons of resources available for you over at www.celestial.fit. Things like a free food relationship coaching series, free post-show blues coaching series, a full competitor card deck with statements to use for affirmations, journal prompts to go through, and even action and behavior changes that you can implement right away. I really believe that by prioritizing the inner work and developing a healthy mindset, competitors can have a more fulfilling journey. And I know the mental side of this sport is really key to establishing longevity, ending the yo-yoing from show to show, and really establishing goals that span well beyond the stage. If you're looking for that support, head over to www.celestial.fit, where you can find tons of free resources or even apply to work with me. Those are great tips. And of course, I actually watched your glute training video on YouTube, because I was like, how is she training all this glutes all the time? And that in that video you had mentioned that's what you were doing. So there's a lot of resources from the pages that's helpful.
I think a lot of people are scared to go train hard. When you train glutes, it's not an easy thing. I am dead every single session. I want to crawl out of a gym every single session. So training glutes isn't an easy thing. It's not a light training session. You should be dying every time you've come out of a gym. And if you're not dying, you're not training hard enough.
How did you find your, I don't know what the right word would be, like maybe your pain threshold? Like, how did you find
your
limit?
Your limit, or you can go through, you push through.
Okay, yeah, how did you know what your limit was? How did you get to that point where you're not maybe burning out on the first exercise where you can't continue the rest of the workout, or maybe modify your workouts so that you're getting the most out of each movement?
So I make sure that on every single exercise, even if I've done exercise previous to that specific exercise, that I warm up. So I do warm up sets. So if I do a certain weight on squats, for example, I'll do 3 or 4 intro sets to build my way up to that weight that I know that I can do 10 to 12 reps, and then I'll get it out. And then I've got a very good pain threshold. So I can, even though I'm dying, I sometimes have to get people to tell me, sometimes people have to tell me to stop, because I can just keep going. And still, I can keep good form, but just keep going. Yeah. And I just have to get told to stop sometimes, because I can burn out really easily. But if, for example, I track all my weights through a book, very old school, like the good old pen and paper. So I write all my weights down that I've done during that session. And then, for example, if it's a 10 to 12 rep range and I know that I've got 10, the week after I'll do the same weight and I'll try and get 11. And then if I can get 12, and the next week I'll do 12, and I'll just continue to try and up my reps, but keep my weight as it is. And once I'm passing through those 12 rep range, the weight goes up. I don't give myself a chance to even cry about it. I just got to put it straight back up again.
Yep. What's your RPE throughout those sessions? Like, are you taking it to failure, or are you going close to it?
Yeah, every single session, every single set is failure.
Nice. Love that. I just interviewed someone else who said the same thing, and that was what she said contributed to a lot of her growth. So I like hearing.
Yeah, there's a saying, I can't remember who said it, I think it was Arnold, that you only count the reps when it starts hurting.
Yes, he did say that. Yep. It's fair. Makes sense versus counting the
I can't even count anyway.
Yeah.
I get to 5 and I'm like, what am I doing?
I have to write down every set for that reason. Otherwise, I'll be like, did I do 4 or 5 sets already? Now I got to do another one just because I don't know, or I just get really frustrated with myself. So I write everything down too, just like you said. Mine's in a training log on my phone, but I need to do it.
I need a pen and paper. I need to physically write it down.
Yeah. Well, everybody has their thing. And I think the key there is track it so you can push yourself and exceed your previous limits. So I love that insight. And of course, I get the best advice from people. And you've already given us so many great tips from posing to training and life in general. But what would be your best advice for somebody who has never competed before but wants to? And then your best advice for someone on their road to pro?
Someone who's never competed before but wants to get a posing coach.
Yeah.
The first thing. Actually make sure that you actually want to do it. Do it for the right reasons, because like I said at the start, it is hard. It's a long road. It's very lonely along that road. So just make sure that you're doing it for yourself and not for anybody else, because it'll make things a lot easier in the darker days. But at the end, when you're standing on that stage, and like I said, when you've done everything that you possibly can, and you've got that feeling, is you can't explain that feeling when you're on that stage. I don't think anybody could put it into words. It is the best feeling in the entire world. So it's 100% worth prepping for a show, even though it's hard and people don't see everything about it. It is 100% worth it. And someone that is on the way to pro, it takes time, and you just need to keep going. Take all the advice that you've got, take all the advice from people who've got there, and just keep going forward, because you'll get there if you've got the determination and knowing that you can do it.
Love that. Now, how can people follow your journey, connect with you, and even work with you?
So if you want to work with me, I've got my own website. It's JadeKelsie-coaching.com. If you want to get in touch with me via Instagram, it's JadeKelsie_IFBB Pro. And I have a YouTube channel, Jade Kelsie Wolfenden. Easiest way to contact me is through my Instagram, because my phone never leaves my hand.
That's awesome. Well, I'll make sure all that's in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. We not just have all of the links for connecting, but we do a full summary of the episode, written summary, topics that were covered, and episode timestamps. So this allows you to go back to the parts that you really liked, as well as share it with people and let them know why they should listen and what to expect. So want to say thank you guys, especially we've been doing video episodes almost every single week now. I don't even remember the last time we just did an audio one, which has been new and exciting. So thank you guys for subscribing on YouTube at celestial_fit, so you can catch the video interviews like this. And we post updates too on celestial_fit on Instagram with reels. So tag the competitors as you listen. Let us know what you like about the episode or what resonated with you, because it means so much to me. It means even more to the athletes, because it means their story resonated or something stood out to you about them. And that goes such a long way and really supports the podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in. And Jade, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you all. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.